What is the weirdest thing you saw someone doing because they thought they were alone? Farting into their hand and then smelling it. I saw my almost militantly atheist father praying once. I heard my extremely militant atheist brother praying. He denied it whenever I asked about it. My dad jacking off, we never spoke about it to this day. And now everyone's imagining catching their dad jacking off. I was doing it before everybody else. Okay guys, we have a winner here. I once walked into an office and saw a man hunched over in the corner intently smelling a glass of water. I tried to politely ignore him, but he loudly announced, "It's not what it looks like. I'm smelling the water." Okay, it's exactly what it looks like. I once saw a girl skinny dipping in a river while I was backpacking in the high Sierras. Do you mean the foothills of Mount Tibidabo? Sounds like a good time to me. He wasn't alone, but thought he was unobserved. Our former Australian Prime Minister, before he became Prime Minister, was recorded in the House of Representatives picking his ear and eating the wax. You made me imagine a disgusting taste. Carrot. Yes, I used to do this as a child, but I didn't like it, since the taste was horrible. I knew that somewhere on this thread, that would be mentioned. One of my female coworkers came into the break room. She didn't see that I was sitting back by the snack machine on my phone. After sitting down at one of the far tables, she reaches up the sleeve of her t-shirt and rubs her hand into her armpit. She then brought her hand to her nose and smelled her fingers. Then I thought I was going to be sick as she licked her fingers. She did this several times thinking no one was watching. Then another coworker walked in and called back to me, and she spun around to see I was there the entire time. Damn, that's nasty. At first I thought, well, sniffing your armpit is okayish, as I do that too sometimes just to check. However, licking it repeatedly is the kicker for me. I can kind of understand maybe doing it once. Sometimes curiosity can get the best of us. Starts licking random objects in the office. When my father is working in his workshop, he has a lot of conversations with himself. It's quite funny to go into the workshop and ask if he was talking to me. Not super weird, more endearing. We'd been drinking by the fire at a friend's house and it had gotten late. His house has a gravel path that runs from the garden to the front of the house, running along the side of the house. We decided to leave this way to avoid unnecessarily waking up anyone else in the house. Anyway, we said our goodbyes, but for some reason thought it would be funny to hang back and watch him stumble about the kitchen through the window on the side path. For the next 20 minutes he was tidying up, but kept turning to his dog, chatting away with it, making faces at it, and telling him how much of a good boy he was. Never seen him in such a pure light before. You watched him through the window for 20 minutes? It was meant to be something weird that you witnessed, not did. Look out for the other post in the thread about another guy who watched a guy watch his friend talk to a dog for 20 minutes. That's really lovely. I like it when people talk to their pets. Someone yelling and the duck walked up to the lemonade stand and they said to the man running the stand, "Hey, pom pom pom, got any grapes?" Was it a girl with long wavy brown hair singing it? Because I used to do this all the time in public. Also, it's a great song. Check it out on YouTube. My GF college dorm room roommate doing the vagina finger smell test when her BF left the room to the bathroom. It took about 7 to 8 seconds for her to do it. I guess it smelled fine because he spent the night. I just want to say, on behalf of all men, thanks to the ladies who have the presence of mind to check in advance. My mom caught me playing with my armpit hair. I was, for some reason, absent-mindedly pulling on it, and she said something like, "Most people shave it, not pluck it." My little brother 17 licked the dog's face after my dog licked his face. It was just a full cycle of face licking. It weirded me out. One time I saw a kid subscribing to James Charles. A Bella flop right on the pavement. I stepped out of the back office to help the customer during my lunch break one time back when I worked in retail. When I came back in, my boss was standing above my beef fried rice with a long piece of said beef dangling from his fingers above his open mouth like a baby bird. He dropped it in, chewed, turned and saw me, and said, "I always wondered what that tasted like," then hurried past me out the door. We never spoke of it again. When I was like 10 we used to go to the library to play games on the PC. There were like 20 and one guy was sitting at the last one against the window. There were like 2 seats between us. His ears were moving all the time, and he was sitting a bit weird. Then I noticed the reflection of the screen in the window. This guy was looking at middle-aged women in diapers. It was so weird I started laughing, and he looked at me all weird, closed the PC, jumped up and speed walked out the library. It was so weird. I'll pipe up and say I was caught picking my nose. I was plugged up from mowing lawns all day and parked behind a gas station on my way home. I was really going to town and pulling out a snot mulch leaf mixture with every scoop from my thumbnail. With both nostrils clear I survey my work in the rearview mirror, and out of the corner of my eye I see a puff of smoke. Someone on their smoke break watched my mining effort. My heart sank to the earth's core from embarrassment. It's not that weird, but a while ago I walked into class a bit early and no one was in the room except for this one guy sitting in kind of in the middle of the class. I knew the guy, but we weren't great friends. Well, when I walked in he was licking his knee. I have no idea why, but he was just licking his knee, and then he looked up at me and immediately stopped, and I just walked out. I don't even know. Poor guy. Probably always wondered if he could lick his knee, but never could work up the courage to do it until he was early for class and alone. Just to have you walk in and lock eyes with him mid-lick, scaring him for life. How many of you just tried to lick their knees? I sure did. I just did now. It's easy. I don't understand how anyone would question themselves about this and try to do it. Not someone who saw something, because I'm the person who does it. Whenever I'm alone, I talk to myself very loudly and as if I'm having a conversation with another person. Usually I'll also explain to this invisible person that when I'm alone, I talk to myself very loudly as if I'm in a conversation with another person. All of my family members and both of my housemates have caught me doing it, and I get very defensive and annoyed when they respond. I mean, that's just rude, cutting into someone else's conversation like that. Ick now. I totally get it. It's weird when you step back and think, man, I wonder if everyone has an audience like I do. Of course this particular thing doesn't get said aloud because you don't want to offend the audience by suggesting that they're imaginary. I was doing a temporary live-in nanny gig for a 2-year-old girl. Her parents were separated, so on this one night, she was at her mom's apartment. I guess the dad thought I was at my house as I went home on my off days, so he was in the kitchen eating ice cream in a business shirt and underwear. He apologized for seeing him like that, so I just went to my room in the house afterwards, and we never spoke of it again. Making out with the back of their fist. Bro, she had taco flavored kisses. Picking their nose and sticking it on the wall or something near them. My 6-year-old was singing a song about his nuts while he was playing Minecraft. Looked very embarrassed when I started singing along behind him. 'Twas funny. I was in Florida visiting family at a retirement residence. One day as I was at the gym I went to use the bathroom. When I came back this old dude no younger than 70 was on the treadmill on all fours trying to roar like a lion. I just walked back into the bathroom and laughed. When I returned he was staring at me and said go away. My dad is your classical machete style mustachioed and middle-aged stern man. Occasionally I'll visit him to drop something off, to catch him dancing to some 80's Flashdance disco song. He just pretends nothing happened. Standing up to wipe. It wasn't immediately obvious the action was wiping. Apparently like 50% of people stand to wipe. Literally earlier today, I was walking to the bathroom at work, which is in the basement of our library. Yes, I'm a dork who works in a dark library basement, anywho, and the student was walking up the stairs and started singing some sort of Gregorian chant type thing, because the stairwell is really echo-y. I mean, it sounded great, so I couldn't even get mad. Someone making love to a apple. About a year ago I thought I was in the science room alone, since there are no science classes after lunch, but my enemy was sitting over in the corner. I put on some music and danced with the school skeleton and sang along. After about 5 minutes of this, the guy clears his throat loudly. I turned around, saw him, we locked eyes. I reached over to the table where my phone was without breaking eye contact. We kept eye contact until I closed the door. It was weird on both sides. Well, it wasn't someone I saw, it was someone that saw me. I was once in my car waiting for my mom to come from the supermarket and decided to turn on the radio to some metal stuff. Then I went full rockstar, singing and moving to the song. Little did I know, a school colleague was in the car next to me watching it all, mind that I was considered the quiet kid in class. As I was swinging one time I turned to his side and stopped, only to see a face of someone whose childhood had all been a lie. He didn't tell anyone after. Good fella. Having a full conversation with their dog and they acted like it talked back. Not alone necessarily, but he thought he was unobserved. I saw one of the guys with Down syndrome from the neighboring assisted living facility putting a whoopee cushion on the saddle of a bike parked in front of the local supermarket. It was amazing and hilarious, and I wish I could have stuck around to witness the reaction of the bike's owner when he came back out and discovered it. Walked in and my teacher was dancing behind his desk trying to learn how to default dance. My grandfather laying butt naked and spread out on his bed when I was like 13. Lovely. Singing Gummy Bear in the shower. My brother was 5 back then. During play practice in middle school saw one of the girls in the back randomly lift shirt up and they weren't wearing a bra. Well, it was a while ago. I was in my school's toilet and I saw a close friend of mine jacking off in a cubicle. Door open. I think he thought that, since it was before class, that no one would come. It was extremely awkward for us for the rest of the week. Saw this just above this post. It's completely absurd. Can't even imagine what could be wrong with this dude. In high school my friend's mom had a lodger who rented the basement of their house. It was a walkout basement, so one night, when we were smoking cigarettes and being general teens we looked into his apartment. He was sitting in a lazy boy lit by only the TV and eating margarine with a spoon out of one of those giant rectangular bulk tubs. When I first got a job in London and hadn't sorted out an internet connection in the room I was renting, I used to let myself into work's office sometimes in the evening to get online. The route from work to home was through a tree-lined park, which had no lighting along its paths. You had to make do with light from the street lights along the edge. One time walking home late at night, there were 3 girls, each squatting against the dark side of a different tree, peeing. Obviously they had made the effort to hide themselves from being seen from the road, but that meant they were facing straight at the dark path through the park that I was walking. I walked into a classroom once to see this quiet kid practicing that floss dance from Fortnite. This kid was in the washroom in front of the sink, so I thought he was gonna be washing his hands or something. Nope, he was cursing under his breath just staring at himself. I used to work the health and beauty section at Walmart. We had a section of perfumes and colognes, with unfortunately a bunch of testers for people to smell. I'd heard about this dude from my coworkers, but didn't believe it till I saw it. This guy goes up to the perfume wall, looks both ways to see if the coast is clear, squats down, and proceeds to spray his crotch with latest perfume. He then walks away in a flowery cloud. One time my family and I went to our indoor shooting range. We entered the range part and the only other person there was an employee sweeping up the shells. She started dancing with the broom, and she was really getting into the dance too. She then turned around, saw us, and had the look of pure embarrassment on her face. This is one of my favorite stories to tell, and will make me extremely identifiable to those who know me. Here we go. Whilst on holiday one of my friends must have decided that his toenails were too long and chose to remedy this through the use of his own teeth. So he grabs his ankle and brings his foot up and his head down, his teeth bared like some sort of hunting wolf. At this point I turn around to say something to him, see this act, and have to look away. I decided it was best that he was allowed to carry on with this without knowing that I was watching. He had committed to the act and wouldn't be able to turn back now. Good buddy of mine had this weird habit of doing strange things when he thought no one was watching. He would sometimes make machine gun noises and explosions, as you could expect from Saving Private Ryan. He also had this odd habit of sniffing his fingers and then making a slightly high-pitched HMMMPH noise. He would scratch himself, tug and pull, all that, and even armpit scratch and sniff. Lastly, he liked talking to himself. Nothing crazy, but he would prattle off airplane facts and statistics under his breath. Walked in on a friend drowning bugs on a food tray filled with a thin layer of water. He had a stick to hold them under in one hand and a knife to cut little parts off of them in the other. I watched him do it for a while before he noticed me standing there. I've never walked in on anyone doing something weird, but in the beginning of the twerking craze in like 2012, when I was 12 to 13 and a guy in the midst of puberty, so yeah, I was watching a lot of twerking videos. I decided to try it myself, but I forgot to lock the door. Mom walked in, and we both got quiet before she was like, "I need you to do the dishes," and I said something like I was running in place to work out, like for exercise, and she nodded and left really quick. She never brought it up again, but I often lay awake at night thinking about it.